And Ron, welcome back. And welcome back, Michelle from Force of Light. Good to have you, my friend.
Hi, Michelle.
Good to be here. Hey.
Yeah. So we'll get back to Echo in a minute, Michelle, because I know you loved it so much.
All 15 minutes that I saw.
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
That's it?
I can't look. I feel bad for having to sit through. Maybe that I actually watched was maybe 1.5 episodes. I turned it off somewhere in the middle of 3, but I wasn't watching it I skipped out maybe an hour before that. Just couldn't take it anymore. It was so terrible.
Yeah, on this Echo thing, I think there were 2 tricks pulled by Disney. I'm curious what the panel thinks on this. Trick number 1, they put out the Star Wars announcement on the day of. I think that was they needed to switch the narrative on Star Wars, but that also fixed their issue with Echo was going to be their lead story for the day with the reviews, and that was going to be terrible. And then the other thing they did is, for the very first time, Disney Plus put out a show in its entirety doing the Netflix strategy, and I think that was to save this show from never appearing on Nielsen after the first episode.
And they dropped an embargo on it until the minute it released effectively.
That's only because they couldn't figure out a way to hold the embargo longer.
That's it. I mean, that's just it. They didn't want anybody reporting how bad this show was before it started. So
what? Why? What? So then, why did they release it? They had already decided not to release it. So, come on. What do your sources tell you? Why did they go ahead and do it anyway?
My sources say you cannot comprehend the level of idiocy that happens at the House of Mouse. Well, no, I listen. That's a great question about if a company knows that they have an absolute terrible piece of content that would damage the reputation of their franchise, and there's no legal obligation, no contractual obligation to release it. Why the heck release it if it's going to be your downfall? Except that the churn must churn. I don't understand it.
Well, that's just it. And there were 2 pieces that kind of came up that I want to mention here, since we're kind of driving down this road at this point, because why the hell not? If I can get this to cooperate here. So the first was, and I mentioned this week on Twitter, Marvel's The Echo review, the good, the bad, and the Disney. Let's just say, I'm not going to read through this because it's laughable. God bless you, Eric Kane. We love you. Keep writing because you give us some entertainment. Eric Kane's biggest compliment of this show, and I am not paraphrasing, I am quoting, Echo was fine.
It exists.
It exists. Echo is a show.
No animals were harmed in the production of that.
No. Echo is a show.
Unless they watched it.
And I mean, this is how bad it is out there in Hollywood and in the Hollywood trades, and not just the Hollywood trades, but also in the Hollywood hierarchy, even on the financial trades. Because again, this is a magazine that is geared towards Wall Street, which we're going to talk about more here because there's more to come. The Walt Disney Company earnings call, February 7th. Stay tuned, folks, because that is going to be a Tijuana Donkey show, I have a feeling, and especially with the annual stockholders meeting that'll be a couple of months after that in April. But the deal here is, it talks about the show, Graham Greene, all this kind of stuff. Talks about it had a great cast, but I couldn't figure out what the show was about. I didn't understand it. I won't spoil the actual story because there wasn't one. All this kind of great stuff. It goes on. You can watch this kind of thing. But in here, he talks about how it was. I got to scroll all the way down. Here it is. All told, Echo is fine. I'm not lying.
Oh, wow.
I'm reminded of that comic, the meme with the dog in hell.
I enjoyed the first 3 episodes well enough. Even if it's a bit slow for a show that's only 5 episodes long. Oh, you think?
Oh.
All 5 episodes drop tonight. Blah, 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 blah. Now, he goes in here, and I don't know where exactly it is. It might have been further up, where he talks about, look, the show is very representative, and I love representation. It's great that we have Native American...
I got it.
Therefore, I'm not allowed to fully criticize it the way I would if it was filled with a bunch of pasties.
It's like Eric Kane, this poor son of a bitch, has to literally apologize for himself and his hatred of this show in his own article to make sure that people don't think that
I blame his
he's
ancestors.
racist. That he's racist. And by the way, just making sure, speaking of being racist,
Good health has a good name called
Land O'Lakes, spread with sweet cream, lower in fat and cholesterol free.
Good health has a good taste called
Land O'Lakes, spread with sweet cream.
Okay, and we're back. So look, I mean, that's where we are. Gentlemen, ladies out there, I don't know what to do with this because wait, and let me give you something else real quick. That's the next place we're going. We got an article from the Huffing and Puffington Post. The show has its messy moments, like the entire damn show, but it triumphs in its representation of indigenous, deaf, and disabled people. Help me.
Okay, two things. Two things. Once again, they're pushing the idea of, well, there's representation and there's deaf and disabled people in it, so you gotta like it, right? If
Look
you
at
don't
the
like it,
picture
you're
they have for the
ableist,
article.
you're racist, or whatever. So it's like, okay, so you want us to enjoy this crap sandwich of a show just because it happens to, and I will say this, throw a bone to this particular, and let's be specific here because this is something that Hollywood likes to do. They like to put all quote unquote minority groups in the same category. The Choctaw Nation, which they're split into two parts. There's a Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, which got sent from on the Trail of Tears from Mississippi, where my relatives are from, to Oklahoma. Okay. So there's two different things that are going on there. There's two different bands. Now they show the Choctaw as being oppressed by white people. For those of you who have seen the show, you have seen that is blatantly obvious. Am I correct?
I only watched 15 minutes.
Oh, girl, you didn't miss anything. But what I will say is throughout that whole show, it's the white people are oppressing us. The Karens are there. There's one section where it was literally something straight out of, like, say, The Lone Ranger or something like that, where there's the white people that are oppressing them. But it's interesting what they did not bring up in this show is the fact that you had Choctaws who owned slaves in Mississippi. My fifth great-grandfather, who happened to be white, yes, he was a slave owner. Yes, I will never get reparations because of that, just saying that. He actually sold slaves to the Choctaw Indians in Mississippi. And not only that, but he entertained the Choctaw chiefs at his home in Wayne County, Mississippi. So if you're trying to paint this group as quote unquote being oppressed, you've got to show the whole truth, unless there's something you're trying to hide from us.
Once you realize
That's what
it's
offends
a
me.
religion, once you realize it's a religion, you can understand why they no longer care about the quality of the product, because the quality of the product is lower on the hierarchy of their values than projecting and proselytizing the religion. And so representation comes above the need to have a successful campaign with marketing and with your product and consumers happy. That's secondary to proselytizing the message. It's like sitting in a church service and there's a tone-deaf child who can't hit a single note, but at the end of it, you all stand up and clap because, well, it was for the Lord. That's what these people are doing. They should get up there at the beginning of the paragraph and say, for the Lord, or for our
But that's at least idealistic. These people know exactly what's going on. And this is what Val was talking about a couple of minutes ago. It's all about gimme. It's all about expectation. We have an expression in Yiddish, es kommt mir, which means I got it coming. I have it coming to me. You owe me. Why do you owe me? Because I graduated from college, because I'm a person of color. By the way, this is a good opportunity for me to announce that I'm going to be the first ever 61-year-old Orthodox Jewish center fielder for the New York Yankees who is a total spaz. There has never been. We've been so underrepresented.
Well, and two things I will say, in fairness to all of us here, I think we've all hated all of the Marvel stuff, regardless of their color of the lead actor.
Since let's stipulate since 2019, right, Michelle?
Well,
I mean,
I'm saying that the Disney Plus stuff.
So then let's also
Yes.
ask the question. Are we actually, I know it's fun to laugh at these people because they deserve to be laughed at. They're parodies now of themselves because, as Ron said, they're obsessed with cynicism and narcissism, which is a wonderful combination, especially when you're on a power trip that is made by virtue of your immutable differences in the tribe that you belong to. But that said, I sense the changes here. Why do I sense the changes here? Because Robert Downey Jr. the last week just kind of slipped up and said, when he was asked, "Are you ready to make a Marvel announcement?" Not just yet. We've had Tom Cruise essentially getting assigned to Warner Brothers, but at the same time, Paramount's working on Top Gun 3. We watched as Charmin Obey-Chinoy came out and said, "It is the year, finally, that a woman shaped Star Wars," and Disney actually said, "No, it is the year of Jon Favreau." Now, I think that's still a dumpster fire show behind the scenes.
And we're getting there.
In all three cases, the thing that you would expect to happen out of Hollywood for the past 4 years did not happen. It's almost as if the bank accounts need to be primed and pumped up a little bit.
Put another gay diverse woman in it. Make it more fucking lit.
Yeah,
And I was just going to say, too, something that's so ridiculous about this. Again, I was just going to watch the show because I loved the Netflix Daredevil. I was just going to see what they did with that. But what I was going to say is they're kind of touting this indigenous thing, or, oh, that's an indigenous, like, Marvel show. That might have meant even a little more had we not just kind of come off like, I feel like Yellowstone has given us some really good Native American characters in it.
Yeah.
And then also, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard really good things about Martin Scorsese's, what was the movie? It just won the award.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
And
which
that
again,
just
so-
released on Apple TV for free, I believe. I mean, I was getting pushed this all weekend. Yeah, I agree with you. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.